Hello all, welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun in our Simple Summer Stencil Series. While I'm busy with my Fodder School 3 teaching, I'm just running through some very simple stencil techniques and trying to keep these to a few minutes of fun. So we had a little look at using them with crackle paste. And today we're going to do the simplest of all possible things, which is to just use them with some distress inks and maybe some oxides. We may get to that. I've got some blank tags. I've also got some tags I've already inked up with these colours, just layering those inks up, and you'll see why I've got those later. But for now, I'm going to set those to one side and just think about doing some inking. There's a reason these are called layering stencils, which is that they are really great for layering up. You can use more than one at a time and just create some really interesting layered patterning. So I'm going to start with paler colours because that's always going to be the way to allow the later layers to do something. So I might even go in with Pumice stone, which wasn't one of the ones I'd used on those tags. I used Frayed Burlap, which is sort of the darker version of that. So we will get to that, but my favourite pumice stone is just going to go through these Harlequins to just create my first layer. I'm honestly not thinking too hard about this. I'm going to put ink on, take a look, and see what my heart wants to do next. It's fun, it's playing. So there are those Harlequins, and what I quite like to do is use more than one colour as I go, just because it already gives them a bit more interest. So I'm going to just kind of dip in places with a little bit of vintage photo, just to create a little more variation in those Harlequins. You could stop at that. You could just now do some stamping over the top of that. That would be gorgeous. That would really do the job. But I'm going to take another stencil and add just another layer of stenciling over the top. I'm going to be quite sparing with this because I don't want too much of it going on. I'm going to take, what we do? Let's take Salvaged Patina for these and just have a little couple of those just peeking in places. A little bit more detail going on, a little bit more interest. And because I've got the sponge in my hand, I'm going to bring in just a little bit of colour at this point. Just echoing that. So there's colour there now. No reason I can't stencil over the top of that too. Let's see, let's bring in some Uncharted Mariner. And I think it's actually, I really like those. I'm looking at it, I'm going, I really like those. I'm sad I haven't got more of them. So back over with the stencil in pretty much the right place. And I'm going to put in some more with that same colour. And then what I might also do is get bold and get myself some Uncharted Mariner into the mix. Just creating some darks. Ho, 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 ho. So that's a really lovely extra bit of stuff going on in there. And I'm sort of inclined to leave it at that. I do want to do a little bit of inking around the edge again because I like to draw the eye in to what's happening. So over the top of that Salvaged Patina, here goes some vintage photo. Like so. And then we might even add a little bit of a beautiful dark scorched timber. This one I'm going to pull backwards from the edge and then soften it. Look at the drama of that. Wow, cool. Going to leave that as it is for now. I might come back to it and take a little look later and see if I want to add another layer of stenciling. But I sort of feel like that's ready for a layer of stamping now, probably. So let's get something else on the go. Maybe let's have a look at this one. So it doesn't have to be about layering. You can actually use a stencil to create a really lovely little picture. So for this, if I want to do some sort of actual colouring through the stencil, as it were, it's going to be helpful to have a slightly smaller sponge than this. Tim Holtz does have some adorable tiny blending tools now. I haven't invested in those yet, so I've got some little cheapy sponges, just came in a big pack, and I'm gonna go first of all into these flowers. The key with this is, if I wanted to be totally and utterly precise, then I wouldn't use a stencil at all. I'd go with a stamp and I'd create something really specific and detailed. But what we're doing here is getting that lovely softness that a stencil gives you. So I'm heading for those buds, I'm heading for the flower petals. I'm not being terribly precise about it. That's scattered straw I've just done that with. And then what I might do is add just a little bit of wild honey, which is a slightly darker yellow, right into those centres, just to get that extra bit of colour going on. You can, if you're nervous about this, by all means tape down the sides of your stencil, even tape down your tag underneath if you want. Oh look, I've missed a whole flower over here. That's a nice dark wild honey flower now. Is this a flower or is this a leaf? Doesn't matter. But anyway, let's take another of these and go in with some, what'll it be? Let's have peeled paint. Just catching some of these leaves here. In fact, we might get the bundled sage out as well, because we might not want all strong greens. A little bit down the bottom here. Peeled paint. So I'm really not expecting this to be a perfect rendition when I come out. It's just got a kind of simplicity to it. A looseness, a kind of watercolour looseness, I guess, in some ways. And I've got lots of that green going on, so what I might do is in the stems, so just with the stems, I'm going to try and hit it with a bit of this Rustic Wilderness. Go easy with Rustic Wilderness, as you can see. It's a strong old green, so I'm just hitting a few of those leaves with that to give ourselves, again, that variation across the tag. And because I want it to have a relationship to what's already going on the mat, I'm going to take some Salvaged Patina as well. And I might do that with this big one and just catch a couple of those leaves on the hop with a bit of Salvaged Patina in there. I don't know what I'm going to get now. This is the excitement of the reveal. I think I've caught most places with some ink of some colour or other. And now we get to see what we've got. Let's take a look. And is that pretty or is that pretty? I'd say that's quite pretty. I'm going to bring in a little bit of gentle Salvaged Patina from around the edges. Should have done that with tumbled glass to get a slightly bluer look, but actually, no, it's nice. That's partly because I used the Salvaged Patina over this stencil and it had lots of Rustic Wilderness on, so the Rustic Wilderness has sort of done the job there. Spritz and flickers, stencil flippers, will be quite curious now, at least I am, to see what I might get if I give this a spritz of water. If you haven't seen the stencil flipping video, go and check it out, because there's a whole video dedicated to this kind of joy. I'm going to pop that down, just use a bit of kitchen towel to soak up any ink that wants to escape. And up it comes. Ho, ho, ho. I hope you can see our reverse blossoms. I think there might be another one in there. It'll be a lot subtler if there is. Let's give it a go. More water or not more water. It's always a debate whether to just print it down again straight as it is or to add a little more water, which obviously will make it an even paler print, but might just give us enough fluidity to get the full tag coverage. Oh, that's really subtle. It's like sort of distressed wallpaper. Yep, that's a treat. Very good. And maybe we should on that basis, do a little bit more with our Harlequins and our others. And what I'm going to do is bring in those tags, if you remember, that I had inked up with the blues and browns. That's Frayed Burlap, Salvaged Patina, Uncharted Mariner. I'm going to get these greens out of the way now because they're going to confuse me. I think that was all that was in there. Oh, a bit of vintage photo, a bit of scorched timber. Yeah. So the other thing you can do with this is stencil lifting. And again, you can do this in a couple of ways. So you can do it by popping the stencil down and then just giving it a good spray of water. Again, I want to go straight in with kitchen towel, lift up what I've sprayed. Off that, getting down into the gaps. When I lift away, you should see a reverse version of those crosses. Oh, it's good. Spraying can give you quite a soft effect, so if you want something a little more controlled, then you can even do this with a wet sponge. So just a little natural sponge or something like that, dipped in water, and then go through. I'm going up and down, so I'm trying not to allow the water to escape too much under the stencil. It's going to happen, but I quite like the weathered distress effect you get of that. Don't have the sponge sort of sopping, dripping wet. You want, the reason we're doing it this way is to have a little more control. So I'm just doing a little bit of lifting of the inks. Again, I'm going to need, I haven't got enough hands. Thank you to my mouth. Sorry, phone. Sorry, camera. Sorry, audience, for sending you flying just then. And I'm going to dab that away. And up it comes. And so that one, it did escape underneath. But at the moment, I really don't mind. It's got me a really beautiful sort of distressed Harlequin there. I could go for another little go up here because there's still lots of ink in that top corner. And what I do really like is that in some of the places where it's escaped, can you see that? It's actually outlined the Harlequins as opposed to fully picking them up. So that's what I'm kind of inclined to encourage up in this corner. I'm going to go for the spritz this time, just to get a fuller effect. Lifting off that top corner. See what we've got. Oh, it's still subtle. That may be something to do with how pigmented scorched timber is, so it's gone right into the tag. But I'm quite enjoying that. And having done that, what I can now also do is, of course, go back in and layer up some more of this. Shall we go with scorched timber? Shall we go with, maybe we'll start with vintage photo. Let's not be too dramatic to start with, but I've got a feeling scorched timber is going to join the fray. So a little bit of vintage photo. I've got a lot of scorched timber already on that sponge, so I'm going to let that just do what it does. And I might do a little bit coming in from the top. Vintage photo, little pop of those. They're going to have a lovely rusty colour. And a little bit of scorched timber just coming in from the top again. Again, I haven't inked up that sponge, I'm just using what's on there. Let's take a look. Ooh, that's a beauty. That's a beauty. And having seen that, you know what I want to do? I want to get myself some of that lovely brown rustiness over here. And I think I'm going to do it with the Harlequins. Let's start with the vintage photo again, bring it in. And a little bit of scorched timber. Yes, there is still scorched timber on this sponge, believe it or not. That's how much pigment it's got as an ink. Enjoying that quite a lot. So I think that's probably enough inking and stenciling, given I'm supposed to be sticking to just a few minutes of fun. I'll zoom in and give you a little close-up of some of the effects we've achieved today, but I hope you've enjoyed seeing those stencils in action with the distress inks and some water. Simple as that. Happy crafting all.